Today, I look back at all the healthy things I made before 2020 came in like a cyclone and ripped everything apart. When I was living in with my longtime partner, and after a series of health issues for a whole decade, I had to take care of reversing so much on my own. I loved to make juices and share with those I cared about, even if often I had to feel forced to fit into their routine and way. To have had to pull away from this nightmare and return to family has been the most excruciating part of my life so far. Being between houses, trying to define home, and struggle to take care of my home, which is my body that goes with me till the end, irrespective of who is with me on it. I, of course, couldn't build anything to help you career wise, but I took it as an opportunity to unlearn and learn whatever I could. I learned so much from the Health Awareness Center under one roof that I started to apply, but then couldn't follow anymore. Tried to make what I could under another roof without being a hindrance in the kitchen, which I no longer could as well. I wish to make for myself and for everyone, and the intention was to only steam, to use millets, learn, and make so many salads. But for now, I just have veggies as is, as that's all I can afford to. Did you know I learned to make even replacement for junk foods but healthy options so kids could be introduced to it? Oh well, who cares? I only took up ground space with my thoughts and things. Thank you, Thak, for the info. I have my notes to dig back one day when I can. Back when I had the privilege to be with family for about a year after the impact of 2020 of all aspects of my life, I used to cook all this. Everything from recipes that mom taught to kadha, juices and soups, salvaging old things and making impromptu creative things. None of which I do any longer after 2022, as it became just about survival, having to move away alone. I was brought up having paruppu, porchokormbu, kootu, thayirisadam and infinite global cuisines mom tried and aced. At what point did I think I have to fit into paratha sabzi for life? Which I did, by the way, and did so really well, just as I adjusted to every single country I had to move to, every culture and school I had to get accustomed to, and learn to blend here in India, forgetting all my upbringing too. This dialogue of adjusting and not realizing the damage done for another day. For years, I was also finding replacements for non-veg. Let me get into the details and thought process of it. I loved non-veg growing up. I never knew the implications of it environmentally. Religiously, culturally, I wasn't supposed to, but when Germany forced it down mum's throat who had grown up vegetarian, it passed down to us, and little did we know the pain behind what is on our plate. In 2016, I had to get injections in my butt from horrible hemorrhoids and was told I must cut down on what I loved most. There were many other factors that contributed to it, non-vegetarian food being one of the most crucial causes of it. I reduced it big time over the 3 years, but when it recurred yet again and again in 2019, I had to go for Ayurvedic treatment, during which I promised to let go completely. Once or twice in between, I really missed it and fell for the temptation, but was more aware of the mistake I was making both physically and spiritually, but tried to be kind to myself in transition. Seeing documentaries on the meat and dairy industry over the years, I have cried my eyes out, feeling so guilty to have indirectly contributed to so much pain to other beings that share Earth as home with us. I shifted to veganism, but the people around me made it impossible for me to sustain any of my efforts. I tried to make vegan yogurt, cashew, almond and coconut milk and yogurt from scratch, and in my first go aced all of it. But the places I counted on as home no longer could support or give space to my vegan efforts. I looked at the cost, the effort, and also didn't want to blindly go vegan and start buying tubs of vegan foods, only adding to garbage. A dialogue on stuffing the fridge with trash versus resorting to package-free veggies and fruits instead. Moving away, I live without a fridge, oven, all other fancy things that are mostly found in everyone's kitchen. Just bare minimum to sustain life. I just consume nuts as is, which I refill, instead of going through the process of making milk of it, and resort to vegetarianism till I can find an ecosystem that supports my goals to be the compassion I wish to see in the world. Until when I can afford to take myself there without me or my dreams being a burden on anyone, I adjust and do whatever best I can given the current circumstances. My heart breaks to contribute to garbage even the little bit, but either I can make yogurt and kimchi from scratch at home or earn a living with hooping having just the basic fruits and vegetables. I try to do as much as I can, but there are many days I fail and resort to having to eat out, also being mindful of where I'll be contributing to waste least. In 2022, I got to go for Vipassana, which also requires us to refrain from non vegetarian food and so much more. And I got to see so much so closely that I will share someday of how this further reinforced my decision to have let go of non veg years ago and keep up with the promise. Very easy to fall back into the trap of something you've let go for the greater good. And Vipassana teachers have been beyond helpful in answering the queries I've had along the way. Something that oftentimes missing in the adults around us that we look up to for guidance. I miss so much of it, but I've learned to sit through the old cravings and change habit patterns from deep within. I have also learned to find options that I can replace meat with, which will only get better with the times to come considering more and more people are waking up to the filthy reality of slaughterhouses and how nobody deserves to go through this pain just for food on our plate. The first option is plant-based meat from Blue Tribe India. They have nuggets, pepperoni, so much more. Yes, it is still factory made and very expensive and comes in plastic packet which adds to the garbage. But if once in 5 to 6 months I go for one, I give myself this much kindness in transition till the day I no longer need it at all. It's better than having non-veg. There was a place called Al-Baik that I loved to go to for shawarma over a decade ago when I was only in college and possibly had about 1% of the current awareness. Once in 6-ish months when I feel for it, I go for soya chap roll or soya tikka instead and ensure they don't give in single use rather than in reusable plates. That way I keep my vegetarianism and zero waste endeavors intact. There was a soya menu in Bikanerwala for a short while that I loved as it felt very much like I was having non-veg and they too had reusable cutlery. What I couldn't finish, I packed in my box to avoid single-use packaging. During another visit, I tried a sizzler that too gave the illusion of non-veg. Despite my requesting for reusable plates, they brought out chutney in single-use paper cup, which by the way has a layer of plastic that cannot get recycled as it's a thin layer. These are worse than recyclable plastic. They understood, but by then the deed was already done. I've shared this in another video. Here's a meal I put together once in a year quite literally, all by myself alone in my tiny kitchen. A plant-based option for chicken tikka. The plastic packaging disturbed me, but I know I may just never get it until another 7-8 months from now. I have voiced earlier how every society can segregate and collect and ensure we can reduce our garbage and follow each to see it gets recycled, even though this too is all energy consumed out of proportion. But my efforts to voice it anywhere only got sabotaged, my compost bin thrown out, my segregation bin I created to segregate and sell trash for cash taken down, my bin stolen, all at 3 different places I called home at different points in time. So I've learned to keep quiet and adjust for now till I find a proper home or place where my voice will matter. I refilled atta for roti from Adrir's zero waste store, made it from scratch at home, bought vegetable without any plastic wrapping from the local vegetable thela, only the tikka packet bothered me. I have yogurt once in a blue moon to cut down on the amount of trash generated and also to not contribute as much to the dairy industry even though I know Charge helped me recover from fissures in 2019. Tricky to navigate what works for the body and for earth as well, and not everyone has the privilege to go volunteer in dream spaces right away. I collected some Charge and dahi packets to give scrap uncle, which I will share with you in another podcast. I loved mustard and ketchup growing up, loved hot dogs. Who knew I'd completely stop having these? I had stopped getting anything in plastic and anything with preservatives, anything that needs to be stored in the fridge. After waiting 2 winters without it, I went for mustard once and ketchup a total of 3 times. I pass them on to Kabaddi to recycle and may just never get it ever again, as there's enough guilt to have to contribute to more plastic just for something to eat. I wanted to make everything from scratch at home, but for that I must have the privilege to not have to pay rent. But that's something only some selected few have, so I tried experimenting all that when I could and then let go now just to focus on what's more needed for survival. I've been trying to find the middle path and share one tiny aspect from years walking the path, changing whatever I can, taking little baby steps. I can say that the impact quitting non-veg has had on my body and well-being is unbelievable. I couldn't follow much of what I had in mind health wise, but even as I survive in current circumstances, I applaud myself for even the growth of just even eating and being even this mindful as compared to the younger, more reckless version with big dreams and goals in India for India. Vegan, vegetarian, or non vegetarian, eventually it still continues to remain a choice. The transition doesn't come from mocking. I recall how awful it felt when a relative would go, "Chee," when an advertisement of non-veg played on TV, when I loved it and thought differently about it back then. If anything, I missed it at the time being away from family. I changed not because of that mockery, but a decade later when my own awareness changed. Reasons to make the shift in any direction have so many factors contributing to it that we really have to change the way we approach this subject. I share this hoping you get to hear the real voice behind this transition for me and know that you're not alone in any of your efforts and thought process. With kindness, we can make any change more sustainable in the long run. In trying to apply everything I feel deeply about, I do not intend to take up space where I'm not required or celebrated, let alone be loved. When solutions are not heard, let alone be appreciated, it's tough to keep walking the path. I allow my 17-year-old self to never stop. I never need a full modular kitchen. In just having a corner with an induction and the freedom to follow what I had to without depending on another to spoon feed me or starve myself because of rules, it was too much to ask. No wonder women get married or get stuck in perpetual toxic relationships or marriages and never take care of their own parents or their own body, mind, and soul. With unconditional love, compassion, and understanding, a lot of health issues could be reversed and eliminated from the root. But I can't say now, I only try. I've had to rebel yet again when I wanted to prove nothing. Just embrace the slow life. I yet again pay a huge price for having a voice. Hope everyone in this world has the support they need to be the change so they can then guide the kids of tomorrow. The places I counted on as home made me shed tears of blood. I earned to put a roof over my head, cooked to put food on my plate, and refused to be called a curse and a disgrace. Manifesting the right ecosystem where my ideas can thrive instead of be sabotaged. I feel like there's so much more to my entire journey of shifting to vegetarianism while aspiring to go vegan, while also ensuring I reduce garbage to someday completely eliminate it. Only shared whatever I could here. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share with anyone who this would add value to.